Hi, Facebook. This is Lorenzo. I am the trainer at Synergy Veterinary Behavior. We are a veterinary specialty clinic specializing in the intersection of behavior and health for all animals. Primarily, we see a lot of dogs, cats, some horses, some birds. We also have a training facility attached to our clinic area in Northwest Portland, and we offer group classes as well as private training for the general public, not just for patients. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about dogs on the trail because I live in Portland, Oregon, which is a dog-loving area. Dogs are very popular and they're just about everywhere, including many places they're not supposed to be. And people really love the outdoors here too. So we get a whole lot of dogs on trails, dogs in camping areas, dogs on trails with horses and bikes and kids and all kinds of traffic. So I want to talk a little bit about ways that you can be a safe hiker for your dog and yourself, as well as for other people and dogs on the trail and other creatures on the trail, as well as some of the strategies that I use to make things easier on myself and make the process more enjoyable for me and my dog. And I'm also going to do a little show and tell with some of my favorite gear. This is a helpful intersection for me as well because my background is as a wilderness guide for the Knowles National Outdoor Leadership School, and I used to take my dog with me for week-long shifts as a wilderness, and right now I was working in wilderness therapy. So I've done quite a bit of backpacking and hiking and rock climbing and mountaineering type stuff with my dogs, and I've learned the hard way many things. Okay, thank you, go away now. I've learned the hard way a lot of things, but I also have enough training and background that I've been able to not necessarily always make mistakes to learn. So a few things initially. So in terms of gear and thinking about safety when you are planning for some kind of trail hike, whether it is, I'm not going to go a whole lot into the logistics of backpacking, like overnights with dogs, but I am just going to talk about like day hikes, but a lot of this can be, is absolutely valid for backpacking as well. So I want to talk a little bit about planning. Again, here in Portland, most of the trails that people are going to access are going to be like out toward the coast in the Columbia River Gorge or out near Mount Hood, really common as well. So a lot of the time you're going to be driving up to an hour or more around here, even for the trails that are close in. And it's important that your dog is safe in the car. I don't think dogs should ride loose in the car. It's just not safe. They should be in a crate that is secured to the vehicle so it doesn't fly around in the event of a collision or any sudden stopping or anything like that. But also, if a crate isn't going to fit in your car or it's not your vibe, that's okay. There are also crash-tested harnesses that attach to the seatbelt. All right, buddy, go away, please. Thank you. That attach to the seatbelt that can be really helpful as well. The Sleepy Pod company makes one that is crash-tested, and Saker Harness also has a crash-tested part of their like multi-modular, very expensive but worth it overbuilt harness. So there's a variety of other different other options. I will say though that just getting one of those straps that buckles in and clips your dog's collar, not very safe either, because in the event of an accident, your dog is going to be strangled. So anyway, I just want to say that about driving to the trailhead. It's also really important, like, where you pick to go. So here in Portland, we are really lucky to have a number of places that you can hike with your dog off leash. And I encourage you, if you feel like your dog is responsive, stays close to you, is not going to be aggressive or rude. Even if they're friendly, that doesn't mean they're polite to other people and dogs. If I'm out hiking with my dog and I call my dog away, I do not want your dog rocketing across a giant field to interact without you present to supervise. So it's important that your dog has some element of verbal control over them if they're going to be off leash. I also think that, yes, there are times when I will let my dog off leash on trails that, like in national forest, national forest trails generally are, you can have your dogs off leash in those areas pretty commonly. If there are signs saying to keep your dogs on leash, then please just do it. I don't care how well trained your dog is. You should just keep your dog on a leash because there's reasons for that. And often it's related to sensitive species in the environment or steep drop-offs on the trail. The types of people who generally let their dogs off leash in those areas are not very conscientious about calling them back and putting them back on leash in situations where they probably should. So that's just an aside. So I think it's helpful, I have a reactive dog, like a dog-aggressive dog, who I was not really able to walk for a long time while we were working on her behavior struggles. And so I would still try and take her hiking. So she was muzzle trained. I highly encourage you to muzzle train your reactive dog. That you can still take a reactive dog on hikes. You just need to be careful about where you go and at what stage you are, like what level of reactive recovery or management or, emotional regulation skills you have under your belt with your dog as a team. So what this means is that I familiarized myself pretty quickly when I was in college and had 3 dogs at a time. Generally, I familiarize myself with all of the different ways to access information about trails. Now the All Trails app is really awesome. It has a lot of great, you can even filter it by like dog friendly, although I don't find that filter super helpful, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. And what I generally want to be looking at is like, how busy is this trail? Even with my very savvy Dutch Shepherd, who's people and dog friendly and very responsive off leash and on leash, and we've done a ton of hiking, I'm not going to take him to a trail like Monoma Falls or something. It's just not very fun. There's too many people and too many other dogs around, and I want to enjoy my time. So I encourage you to pick something that is like, mild to moderate traffic. I think it's important to pick places where, especially if you are still practicing with your dog on some of the important like trail etiquette and skills, I encourage you to find trails that are not narrow and that you can actually step off the trail and take some distance from passing people or dogs. So I live in Portland, and when I was working with Yoshi on being able to be out on trail, we spent a lot of time at Powell Butte Park because those trails give an opportunity to move pretty far off to take space as other dogs passed. And most of the trails in the Columbia River Gorge don't really have that option. Same with like Forest Park. It's beautiful, it's right there, and it's really, really busy, and there's a lot of blind corners, and people tend to run with their dogs off leash there. So I would probably take one of my boys there because they're generally pretty social and it wouldn't be a big deal. But for Yoshi, that would be really stressful, and for me, and it could potentially be dangerous. So those are something to think about. I think it's really important that your dog is in a harness so that they are able to pull. So I say this because I generally, when I'm hiking, my rules and expectations for the dog are different than they might be if I am walking in my neighborhood or on a city street. And our dogs are pretty good at identifying the differences between these details contextually if we are intentional about proactively setting those expectations. So I don't like to hold things in my hands when I'm hiking. So I use what's called a joring harness. Basically, it's a harness for me that is used for canicross, which is a dog sport where your dog runs and pulls. It's kind of like a sled dog, except on land, without snow. And I love the joring harness. It's super comfortable. I get to go hands-free. It's really strong, and my dog can help pull me up hills a little bit. But you definitely don't need to get that fancy with it. I think it is really great to have a hands-free leash. And that particular setup tells my dog that we are in the context where he is allowed to pull and go ahead. Having said that, I think it's also important that you have worked a lot on your dog responding to you, to come back to your side and to walk or stand with you, which I'll talk about in a second. But I also tend to use a different harness. Not always, but especially for Rufio, because teaching him to walk on a leash has been a journey. He has 2 different harnesses. And so his daily harness is just his strap harness that if you've ever seen any videos with him, he is probably wearing this one. It's a balance harness. He wears this at work. He wears it, to the vet, or, if we're going for a neighborhood walk or something. But this is his adventure harness. He does not like to put it on, but he also knows that when he's wearing this, he is able to pull. And I also like this one because it has more coverage. I can get a little bit better diffusion of the force when he does pull, and it has this great handle on the back so that I can hold on to his harness directly really easily without touching his collar or messing around too much. It's pretty easy to clip and unclip, and it's highly adjustable. It also has 2 belly straps, which I really like. This is the rough wear flag line or something. And I like it because it is secure around his stomach. He can't slip out of it, which for some dogs is an issue when it comes to harnesses. When my dog's leash is attached to the back clip, they know that they are allowed to go ahead of me. They can't like mule me down the street. That's not pleasant, but they can go ahead and kind of pull a little bit and do their thing. But whenever my dogs have a leash attached to the front clip, that means they are going to be walking closer to me and we're going to be more engaged. So as long as I'm consistent in establishing those norms, I can have a dog that can do both. Get you a dog that can do both. So on the trail, I think it's nice to have a dog that you don't need to be overly concerned with walking on heel and, you know, not pulling on the leash and all of that, because it's kind of frustrating, and part of the joy of being out in nature with your dog is to just like enjoy your time. So it is okay to have those differing expectations. This also is an easy way for me to, you know, I try to make sure that I have a system where I can easily clip and unclip my dog from the leash so that when he can be off leash, great, and if not, then I put him back on quickly. In service to that, I want to talk a little bit about ways that you can do that. So my Staffy Yoshi has a little traffic handle that is attached to the back clip of her harness, and in addition to her leash, so that I can have her close to me, and the traffic handle on Rufio's harness is already on there. But in addition, for Rufio in particular, I want to show you this cool gadget that I've been obsessively using for him. So I've been working with him on being off leash on trails, as well as running alongside me while I'm skateboarding on some of the paved pathways along the river. So there's no like roads or cars or anything, but there are other people and dogs and bikers and runners. And while Rufio is friendly, I don't necessarily want him to be running away from me to go interact with everyone he sees. He often is allowed to go say hi to other dogs if they're off leash and things like that, but that is a cued behavior, which we're still working on, but he does pretty well. So having said that, I also want to make sure, because there are certain distances at which if a dog is a particular is close enough, I don't necessarily trust that he might not resist the impulse to go and run over there. And I also think it's important that I can have my dog on leash really quickly. Like if a biker or somebody is going by, I want them to feel safe knowing that the dog isn't going to suddenly dart out in front of them, even if he is sitting and is like staying right by my side because I've asked him to. So I've tried a number of different things. I don't like carrying a leash around me. I get it all tangled up and everything. And the amount of time that it takes me to clip the leash onto him is kind of annoying. So I was trying to find some kind of leash that could stay attached to him without necessarily getting tangled up. So I found this mini retractable leash keychain that is really, really cool. This is a product endorsement, but I'm not getting any money for this or anything. I've recommended this to a few clients who have a number of different behavior issues when it comes to leashes and harnesses. And also for those of us who really need to be able to easily get our dogs on leash, either to get from point A to point B, or to restrain them in the house if you're working on certain behavior issues. So this thing is super lightweight. It has this little button on it that you press, and it extends to 40 inches or something, which is like actually pretty decent length. Like I can walk him normally next to me without any problems. It's not as long as I would want a leash to be, but it's perfect for the things that I use it for. And it locks obviously at whatever distance you want. You just push the button for in and out. But the other cool thing about it is that even though it's tiny, it is super, super crazy strong. So supposedly it can hold like a semi truck. So I don't have any concerns, even with how thin this webbing is. I have no concerns that it is going to snap or break. And you get like a 2-pack of these for like $20. Big fan. So definitely recommend. This is called the Lazy Leash. I haven't seen anything else like this. This is the only one that I've found that works for dogs over 20 pounds. There are versions that are for small dogs, but I wouldn't put all of my dogs are over 50 pounds. But this is strong. And I really love how lightweight it is. And I just leave it attached to the back clip of Rufio's harness. And whenever I see somebody coming on the trail, I recall him to me, or he comes back to me automatically, which is what he's supposed to do. And then I just hold on to it, and just in case. So really love this thing. And you can find your own different versions of how you can easily ensure that both your dog and the other people on the trail are comfortable and safe. I have seen far too many accidents, and I've had way too many run-ins with dogs who were not under verbal or physical control. And when somebody's whipping by on a bicycle, that's super dangerous for your dog to be running around. Same with me, like on my skateboard. And anytime I see a dog off leash, I will actually get off of it and carry it, partially because some dogs are reactive to them and I don't want to get chased, but also because I can tell that dog is just doing whatever it wants, and I don't need to break my face because a dog darts in front of my skateboard. So a few things that I think are really helpful for safely hiking with your dog that you should work on training wise. So one is stationing. So all of my dogs are taught to put their paws on an object. It's called two paws on. It's a great confidence building game. It's really fun. They all love it. And it also is a great way to build optimism and resilience around random objects. So I can cue my dogs to put their paws on just about anything, and often they will just try to do it. Anything I put on the floor, my dogs are like, oh, can I put my paws on it? Which is great, because if your paws are on a thing and you have a strong reinforcement history, you have a lot of value for that behavior, then my dog's ability to keep their paws on that thing while people or horses or other dogs pass by is much higher. And it's very easy for me to cue my dog to do this and for them to stay there while stuff happens around them until I release them from that position. So two paws on is one of my favorites. I can cue them to do it on a log or on a rock. I also like to teach my dogs to... Come here, buddy. Keep in the middle. I keep my dog's middle, which is where they station between my feet, and all three of my dogs know this behavior as well. And it is one of the easiest ways to keep control of my dog and to make sure that I'm directing their attention in a particular direction. So especially for my more reactive dogs, or if I see that a dog coming down the trail is really rowdy or is staring intensely at my dog, I don't want them to stare at each other. I can put my dog in middle and turn away, and I can give my dog treats, or with Rufio we use a toy when other dogs are passing, and it is an easy way to keep them out of the trail and out from under a horse or other dog or people's feet. And lastly, I think a formal heel is helpful for passing in close proximity. I don't think that your dog should be greeting every dog they see on a walk. You don't know how the other dog is going to react. And I also don't think that, a lot of hikers don't want to interact with your dog, and they shouldn't have to. You think he's really cute, but that doesn't mean that they want to get jumped on and possibly pushed off the trail or disturbed when they're trying to enjoy their hike. So whenever we're passing people or other dogs, if it's a situation where I think my dog might want to engage with them, I like to cue him on the opposite side to heel for a few minutes, not even a few seconds while we pass, and then he gets released again to either go to the end of the leash or to be off leash. So a formal heel, by the way, is not just your dog walking loose leash. That is a common misconception. It's where your dog is going to be basically attached to your side. Hang on, not there. Yeah. And he's making physical contact, and his head is right by my hip, and he looks up at me, and anywhere that I go, he stays attached. Good boy. Nice job. And we can go forwards and backwards and in a circle, and he's also trained to do it on either side. So I think that's a really important skill to have. I think all dogs who live in the city or in suburban areas should have it. It's also just fun. But it is really helpful on the trail because it also, both middle and having my dog in a formal heel focused on me, also makes it a lot harder for other people or dogs to interact with him. So I can use my body to block and just, let them know that I'm not interested in that interaction. So formal heel, two paws on, and some middle, really helpful. I'm sure other people have behaviors that they love to teach for trail dogs. Recall, obviously, is really important. And I think that it is really important that you have bringing it back to the safety conversation, depending on where you hike and if you choose to have your dog off leash, and honestly, even if you don't, and I'll say why in a second, but your dog should have a GPS tracker on them. So there's a lot of different versions of them. Most folks, like Rufio's littermate, does search and rescue. He has a hardcore GPS satellite tracker that he can be out way in the backcountry and still be found. I don't necessarily need that for my dog, not these days anyway. So Rufio has a phi collar, and in most places that works great. I'm not going deep into the backcountry these days. Maybe someday, but right now he wears it 24/7, and I can easily find him. The other male dog in my house has a Tractive GPS. I like the Tractive as well. It's also helpful. There are reasons I prefer the phi. Unfortunately, I like Tractive as a company, but phi is generally a little bit more user friendly. But they're both great. And the reason I say maybe you want that for your dog anyway, not just because they might get lost, is because you might get injured and lost, and your phone might die, but that tracker is going to work for a long time. So Rufio's will work for at least a few weeks, as long as it's not an active, like, find my dog mode. But even if it's just a few days, that's longer than my cell phone would last if I were to fall into a ravine and break my leg or something like that. So people would be able to find him as well. Let's see, GPS tracker, and then what's another one of my favorite behaviors for dogs on the trail? I would say the behaviors that I've already mentioned, a lot of them we teach in our Control Unleashed class, or at least versions of them, and really easy ways to start them. So even if you have not taught your dog a lot of obedience or tricks or whatever, you don't need, like, heel might take a little bit longer, but honestly, we have a pattern game that does that really well that we teach in Control Unleashed. So if anyone is interested in learning more in the Portland area about some of these strategies, a lot of them are taught in our CU classes. We have a level 1 and a level 2. The level 2, after you have been approved to enter it, because you got to take the first level and feel pretty confident managing your dog in those settings before you can take level 2. But for level 2, we meet at different locations in Portland. So depending on folks' goals, that will probably also include, hopefully, some trail time and practicing in the real world. So please drop in the comments any, like, considerations or thoughts that you have as a hiker or camper with your dog, what you like to do. I will say one of the things I also really pay attention to is there needs to be water on the trail. So I do not think that dogs should be carrying weight. Fight me if you want, but it's not good for them generally. I don't think that dogs should be wearing backpacks. You should carry their water. They should not be doing that just for their physical health and orthopedic health. It's usually, like, they can really only safely carry, like, less than 10% or something of their weight, and the average dog is not in good physical condition for that, even if you hike a lot. So anyway, you should carry their water, which is also why I don't like to do that. So I usually pick places that have creeks or lakes or places that my dog can safely drink. And my dogs also love to swim, so I always want to make sure they can cool off and actually get in the water too. So if you have any favorite dog hiking trails around Portland, drop them in the comments. I'm happy to name some of mine as well. I have a lot of them. I've done most of the hikes around here over the past 15 years, and most of them with dogs. So get out there with your dogs. There are places to go. You can use Sniff Spot. There are plenty of places around Portland that have, like, sniff spots that you can rent just for you and your dog that have trails. You can practice some of these skills, especially if your dog needs a little bit more leveling up or preparation before you can go on public trails. That's a great place to do it, and I hope you have a great day. The hiking season is definitely in full force in just a few days as it starts to cool off a bit, so get out there with your dogs.